Okay, here we go. I mentioned that Kim Laube was going to be joining us. Kim has been a good friend of Lutherans for Life and of me personally. We have worked together on some Iowa Pro-Life Coalition things and a bunch of other stuff, and she's just a great. She has done this work far longer than I have, but I'm not saying she's old. But I'll let her introduce herself more fully. So now please welcome Kim Laube.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for the warm welcome. I'm going to start by just giving you my apology for the fact that I am not present there. I am not far from you. I am in Altoona, Iowa this morning, where at my home. And perhaps Scott already let you know that the reason I am not attending today is I am under the weather, and as are many. But I don't want to have any possibility of infecting you. So we decided to punt, if you will, and that this Zoom, I guess, addition to me and your meeting was the best way that we could go about addressing the group. So thank you for understanding. I am going to tell you just a little bit about myself, and then my job today is to really talk about adoption and Lutheran Family Service and what it is that we do. And so I'm gonna kind of take a deep dive into that, and when I'm finished, then Pastor Salem Mink is going to talk a little bit about the theology of adoption. So I'm really pleased to be here, and thank you for the invitation. As always, a big supporter of Lutherans for Life, and I'm so pleased to do that. I've been involved in pro-life work for since 1998, and I have really been involved in adoption work for about the past 16 years or so. And so there are so many parallels between those two things, but I've been working at Lutheran Family Service as the director of Life Ministries for the past 8 years. And I wear a few hats at the organization. One is to direct pregnancy counseling and adoption, and we do that for multi-state. And then I also am the voice in the public square on life issues. And primarily what I mean by that is I go to the Capitol to lobby on life issues to stop or restrict abortion, to stop physician-assisted suicide. And I work with other organizations in order to sort of partner together towards those endeavors. And so those are really my the hats that I wear at Lutheran Family Service. And we've been involved in pregnancy counseling and adoption for since 1901. So have done a fair amount of the work in this state on those issues, and will work towards adoption law changes as well at the State House. So I want to talk to you a little bit today. I'm going to do some popping around. I know you all are, we're all friends, and so you're going to be very, very kind to me as I pop around, sharing some screens, both from slides that I'd like to share with you, but I also need to pop in and out to go on the internet, share the audio and some video that I want to show you a variety of things. So we'll be doing, hopefully, Lord willing, it's going to go off without a hitch, but I do appreciate very much your patience with me as I do those things. But I'm going to share first my screen in regards to my slides. So we'll start there. And I think you probably are seeing here a slide that says providing hope in a post-Roe world. Give me a thumbs up, Scott. Look right. Okay, very good. All right, so we're going to share a little bit of the slides here, because the very first thing that I want to talk about when it comes to my talk about adoption is that we are not able to really participate in adoption unless we're also participating in pregnancy counseling. That is really what comes first. And though I'm going to tell you about some changes at Lutheran Family Service and some things that we're doing. Honestly, this type of work is something that we have been doing for a long time, but we're going to be doing it under a new brand. And so let me explain what you're seeing on your graphic here on your computer. It's called Better Together. And you're going to see that there is just a pregnancy resource centers and a new organization called Many Hearts, and then Lutheran Family Service that are sort of noted here in how it is that we're working together. So I want to provide an explanation for you, because Lutheran Family Service has always done pregnancy counseling. However, I know this is going to come as a shock to most of you, but there are folks that when they hear the name Lutheran Family Service, they may actually interpret that as being an organization that could be potentially judgmental. And it may be a place that would be that some women might be afraid to come and talk about their unplanned pregnancy. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was to create a brand where women who are experiencing unplanned pregnancy would not feel as if they were going to be judged and maybe treated poorly, or that they were going to feel an immense amount of guilt over their unplanned pregnancy. And so a brand was created called Many Hearts Unplanned Pregnancy Support. That is Lutheran Family Service. This is a brand that we are using in order to be able to attract additional clients who may otherwise been afraid to step into the arena of Lutheran Family Service. So the next graphic I want to show you talks a little bit about how are we working with pregnancy centers, with Many Hearts, and with Lutheran Family Service. How are we working all these things together for good? One of the things that we've always known is that the relationships that we have with pregnancy resource centers, and these are the kinds of centers I'm talking about that do a lot of ultrasound or STD testing. They provide lots of talk about sexual integrity and risky behaviors. They might provide material goods. They may provide chemical abortion reversal procedures. There's a variety of things. You probably know about a lot of them in the areas where you're living. Well, we most certainly do as well. And the work that they're doing there is just essential. They are the frontline workers. And the relationship that we have with those pregnancy resource centers in order to receive referrals of women who may need our help to go a step further in being able to carry that pregnancy to term and either parent or place that child for adoption is really, really important. So when it comes to the pregnancy resource centers, first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about Iowa specifically, and I realize that I'm not talking to all Iowans because you're coming from a variety of different states, but I'm going to put this in the context of some Iowa laws and Iowa I guess experiences that we have here, but understand that those also can be taken into other states. There just might be some nuances of things that are slightly different. Okay, but here in Iowa, we have a coalition of pregnancy centers that I direct in order to be able to keep communication going between those executive directors. That relationship with them is really, really important to Lutheran Family Service. And so one of the things that we've gone in and tried to show them are what are the things that we can do that are beyond what they necessarily are doing. So each one of those pregnancy resource centers do things just a little bit differently. Some of them might be medical only, where they're just providing ultrasound and STD testing and risky behavior consultations. And then from there, the woman is not receiving additional supports. Many Hearts comes in, and so we are able to do several different things, including training for parenting or for adoption, and we're able to give options counseling, which is evidence-based decision-making models on how we work on what choices can be made or should be made for adoption versus parenting. We provide case management, Medicaid applications, WIC applications, transportation assistance, housing referrals, parenting preparedness classes, and discussion of pregnancy with the birth father or with other people that are in her life that are, wanting to have their opinions known as well. So we help mediate some of those things. And then from there, if there is a woman that has a need in order to look at adoption more closely, we are then able to move right into our Lutheran Family Service, which is where we hold our child placing licenses, and we're able to handle their planning for adoption and parent selection, representation by an attorney, further case management, transportation, referrals, and communication with others. And so one of the things I'd like to do is to be able to share with you a bit about Lutheran, about Many Hearts. And I'd like to do that in a video. And I'd like to show you around the website a little bit, first of all. So we're going to go to the screen. You're now seeing the website for Many Hearts. And I just want you to be aware of this, so you can use this as well. So we have, this was meant to be intensely, I guess, informational. And we do that both in written form as well as tons of videos. So the options that we're presenting here are adoption, parenting, and abortion. I want to point out that when we talk about the abortion side of things, so if we go to this portion of the website, you'll see that the things that we have here are information that we have received and gotten permission for to use through APLOG and through Dr. Donna Harrison's organization there, that we're able to provide information about fetal development and as well as the risks that are associated with abortion. So this is not abortion referral, obviously. We're very much against that, but this is talking about abortion in the sense of what are the risks that are there for breast cancer increase, mental health implications, and so forth. We also have, of course, parenting would be one of the other things that we're going to be talking about. So there's just lots and lots of articles here that are talking about being prepared for parenting, and that is an option that we can also assist with. And then we also are looking at, obviously, information about adoption as well. So this portion of the site that I've shown you has been pretty intensive in terms of blog articles and so forth. But I want to point out that in the FAQs, we have, you'll see written pieces here, but you're going to see video after video after video, which is explanation of a variety of things. So for instance, how do I reach out? What prenatal health resources are available to me? What physical and emotional experiences can I expect during the pregnancy? And so on and so on. So there are several of these. I would highly suggest that if you have the time to go to many-hearts.com and to review the variety of options that are there. I'm going to stop sharing this screen quickly because I want to go to a screen where I can show you a video. So I'm going to cue that up here. Just 1 minute. Okay, so we're going to do a screen share with audio so you can hear this. And I want you to know that what I'm going to be sharing with you is a video that's going to talk a little bit about how we decide between adoption and parenting and some things that we have to say about that. So let me get this started. And then Scott, if you'll give me a thumbs up as long as you are able to hear, because I want to make sure that that is working.
Making that critical decision about whether you're going to be able to parent this child or that you need to make a loving plan for adoption is really just a paramount experience for women. And first, I would tell you that it isn't going to be something that you're going to probably make a snap decision about, that you're going to know early in pregnancy that this is what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. It may be at a roller coaster ride. So that's first. And then I would tell you the counselor is going to work with you. We have a very specific path that we take with a personal decision-making guide that we use, that we're going to talk about what decision are we making, when do we feel like we must have that decision made. Lots of people think it needs to be right now. And really, no, it doesn't need to be right now unless you're very close to delivering. But there's time to explore. And through this guide, you're going to find it's kind of a glorified pros and cons list, but a little bit more than that, because sometimes it's not just you making the decision. There are other people that are involved in your life that probably have an opinion. And that might be your partner, the father of the baby. It could be your parents. It could be other important people in your life. And at some point in time, you're going to have to decide, how much power will you give someone else to make this decision, or will it solely be your decision to make? So we'll talk through some of those things. We'll talk through what the resources are for each thing. So if you are going to parent, let's really talk about the reality of parenting. What are all the resources that you're going to have at your fingertips? Maybe that is that you have extended family that's willing to help you. Maybe that's not on the table for you. Maybe if you're deciding for adoption, there are many things there to explore as well, because you probably don't know enough about that process in order to make that decision right away today, but you probably need to have some education about what that process looks like. When you're considering parenting and you hadn't planned it, there can be a multitude of things that are going to be on your shoulders, thinking about, what about insurance? What about food? How am I going to pay my rent? I won't be working for a period of time, so how is that going to happen? So there, first of all, is identifying what are the problems. Most people can work through a good portion of their pregnancy, and it's not till the end of pregnancy that they need to plan for some of those financial resources to be stockpiled so that they're able to take care of the rent for the month that they deliver, or what are they going to do afterwards. So there are many things to talk through that we can help you with. So for example, if you're pregnant, you should be able to receive Medicaid if you don't have other medical insurance, and your child can also be on Medicaid. We can help you with those applications if that's something that you need to do. There are other assistance programs depending on your income that can help with food assistance. There are multiple things that we can kind of point you in that direction in your community, as well as childcare possibilities and what those are going to be, planning for what that will cost, and then also helping you even with just a budget. And maybe you're not employed right now, and so that's even scarier. Part of the program that we have here is I've written several resumes for people, helping them to find the right employment, even while they're pregnant. And so there are multiple things that we can do to try and help you get your feet under you in order to prepare for parenting. If you're planning an adoption, there are multiple things that you can do depending on the state that you're in. You can use a licensed agency. You could use an attorney. You could just be searching on the internet for your own family. And I will tell you, my experience is that for the woman who is pregnant, the best option for that woman is to have a full social service agency behind her. And the reason is that having a one-on-one discussion with someone that you're sitting in the same room with, this is all pre-pandemic, right? We certainly work with, figuring those things out during the pandemic times. But generally speaking, knowing that you're in the same state, in the same city, that you're going to sit down with somebody that is going to counsel you through the ups and downs, and that is going to help you fill out applications for Medicaid, for food assistance, for making sure that you have transportation where where it is that you need to go, to make sure that that cell phone bill is paid so that you have a way to call the hospital. Those are the kinds of things that are really necessary for a woman who's experiencing unplanned pregnancy and may have, not a lot of financial resources at her fingertips. So I would certainly encourage that having a full social service agency would provide many benefits for a woman who's experiencing unplanned pregnancy. In selecting an agency, I think it's important for you to determine what your needs are. So when you go looking, the first thing I would want to know are they a licensed agency? So you can easily find that out, and you can simply ask the question of the person that you're talking to. But do they have a person that's in the same state that you are? Because this is all state by state that things are licensed. Being licensed means that they're going to have an inspection, and people come in, they make sure that the work is done the way it is supposed to be done. And so I think that would be very important. Making a connection with the person to know whether or not you can work well together, that you feel comfortable talking with them about the circumstances, that you feel heard is very important, and that you feel that you have some sense of control about what's going on. So for instance, finding an agency that's willing to talk to you about both parenting as well as placing for adoption means they don't necessarily have a vested interest in your decision. What's best for you can be decided by you through a counselor guiding you to that end. Here at Many Hearts, we're all about love. And I'm inviting you to reach out to us today and let us help you.
Okay, so along with our adoption program, we also do parenting training. And this is one of the things I want to talk to you about because, it's important that, the last thing that I kind of said in that video was that an organization that doesn't necessarily have a vested interest in what you decide, that our goals are set forth to either train you to become a parent and to do that effectively, or if you need to have an adoption plan, that we can work with you as well. And that truly is what Lutheran Family Service is trying to embody. And I want you to know that we work very hard on the training that we do for parents through, that are wanting to become parents, to prepare them. And so one of the things I want to share with you now is, first of all, I want to know, and maybe Scott, you can tell me in the room, how many of you have heard of Bright courses? Any of you know about that already? Anybody heard of that, Scott?
There's about 5
Okay.
5 to 10.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, very good. Well, Bright Courses is put on, or has been produced by Brandon Monahan with the Heritage House 76. And I'm betting most of you know who that is, and you probably get a lot of your resources through Heritage House for pro-life. And so Bright Courses has been produced by that organization. And it is, I'm going to share my screen here so you can see. There are about 150 courses. I'm going to not share my audio this time. I got to find the right, let's see here. My screen is in the way. How do I do that? Hold on a second. Just pause with me for just a minute. Okay. I want to share a screen with you that show the courses. Okay. So I think you can see the course list right here. Now, there are over 150 courses that are provided by Bright Course Lessons. And you can see here that it begins with pregnancy and birth. And you'll see the number of minutes over here. This is what this is referring to is the number of minutes on a video, because this is a video-based courses. You'll see about parenting here in the first year, parenting in general, you'll see love lessons. It's probably not surprising to you that lots of the birth moms that come to us, or the expectant parents, maybe are having a little bit of problems in their relationships because they're having relationships that are outside of marriage. And so you'll see all of the love lessons that are listed here. We talk about co-parenting and what that could potentially be like, because most of these folks are going to be single. And other life lessons that they might not have had in the past, and things that they don't know about finding jobs and about using credit. And there are tons of special circumstances as well. But this course list is pretty extensive. We use Bright courses and have reviewed Bright courses to make sure that it really seems like it is that the things that are being said there are truth. We've had Dr. Lamb review those courses, and it is a situation also with Bright courses where we can turn off and turn on a spiritual element depending upon the client that we're working with. And that spiritual element brings in Bible verses and biblical foundation that helps to give just a better foundation for that particular item that we're talking, especially when we're talking about marriage and relationships and those types of things. And so Bright Courses has really been a big help to us, and we can do that both in a classroom where we're all together, or we can do that virtually in a classroom where we're like this. But we're able to walk women through the variety of courses. Some of them only want or need to have courses about childbirth. Others really want and would benefit from additional courses. And you can see, again, there are 150 different courses. And so we've been really blessed to start that program here relatively recently. And I will share with you.
Kim?
Yes.
No one's raised this question, but it's going through my head. Is this a subscription-based thing that people could access from wherever, or do they have to buy something, or what's the format for Bright Courses?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we provide this for free, but we subscribe to Bright Courses. And so we are able to provide, just like all of our pregnancy counseling, everything that we do is at no cost to the women. But there is a subscription fee to be able to be participating with Bright Courses. And so one of the things that they promise us is that they're going to have, none of their videos are going to be older than 2 years. So they update them. So that we're not talking about really old pieces of footage that people are not interested in using. They have very interesting graphics, and they do a variety of different things in terms of interviews with others, and that might be a part of the video, or it may be a graphic based where they're using animation and that type of thing. But the courses are really very helpful, and we have been really very blessed by the situation. And so if you have other organizations that you work with, pregnancy counseling centers and so forth, if they don't know about this, it might be something that you want to share with them and let them know, because it really is a fantastic situation. So, okay, I'm going to go back to my slides, and we are now going to talk about what adoption is like today. So most of you are going to know a little bit about adoption, and that it's much different than it was in the 1950s and 60s. But what I would have to say to you is first of all, it is a plan that people can make that can involve them for the future. So an expectant mother or father, if they're looking to possibly have a continued, relationship with that child or with an adoptive family, that is possible. That is not co-parenting, but that is a relationship where they know one another and are able to communicate with one another. So there can be openness in that adoption planning. So in the past, of course, there were lots of stigmas associated with adoption. It was very secretive. Sometimes the children wouldn't have any idea that they were adopted. Those things are all definitely in the past. And the vast majority of adoption work that we do is going to have an element of openness in it. And so one of the things that I think is important for people to know is that you've probably heard people make the comments that they're giving up a child. I would challenge you in that language and ask that you would help to really pivot on those remarks to making a loving adoption plan, because I can certainly tell you, with the multitudes of women that I have helped make an adoption plan with, they are not giving up. That is not at all what's happening. What they're doing is making a very, very difficult decision as a parent as to what would be best for their child. And so we like to talk about that when we can. It's a loving adoption plan. There are tons of choices for expectant parents to make. And that choice can start with whether or not they want to have any sort of decision-making power as to where the child may be going to be parented. And so we start with that idea of, would they like to look at some profile books of families that potentially would adopt their child, and get an idea through pictures and text about that family's life and their lifestyle. And then potentially the next step would be whether or not they want to meet that family, to talk with them about that possibility. And so those are face-to-face meetings that are then something that our case managers will facilitate in talking to the family and the expectant parent about all of the aspects of adoption. So how open might they be willing to be with this expectant mother in the future, about naming the child, about what kind of exposures the child might have had in utero, all of the plans for the hospital, and just what that family's life might be like. So we take care of those face-to-face meetings. There are no secrets for an adoption plan that's like this. So a child grows up knowing what adoption is. And we talk with our adoptive parents about the importance of speaking honorably about the biological parents of the child. Sometimes we make mistakes, and that biological parent may have had some things in their life that were not very honoring, but everyone is, it can be spoken about as a child of God, whom God loves. And it's important for us to talk about that with our families, because that child who is adopted will receive, at some point in time, they will have some of their own identity that comes from that biological family. And so we talk a lot about how we can be honoring of that biological family. And sometimes that's very easy, and sometimes it's complicated. But all of those things are important to us. We also are going to address all of the safety issues that might be concerning adoptive families with expectant parents, especially if there are some things going on in their life that maybe are difficult circumstances like addiction or criminal backgrounds and such. And so we discuss how we are going to make sure that everybody is safe. So adoption today, I would say, is, first of all, very much open rather than closed. And it needs to be looked upon as the potential for that ongoing relationship. So there are many things about an open relationship that can be very beneficial to both the birth parents, the child, and the child's parents. So a child's, for the birth parents, they can know about that child's safety and be able to know that that child went home, that they got safely to the adoptive parent's house, how things are going. It can really put their mind at ease, especially during a very difficult time. They are able to tell their own story to that child when it is age appropriate to talk about that story and the various aspects of reasons why they needed to place that child in an adoptive home. Future children will know one another. There potentially are going to be at least half siblings that would like to know each other in the future. This is an avenue to make sure that happens. They're able to receive updates and pictures and have an ongoing relationship, and there's no awkward reunions in the future. For the child, they're able to hear that adoption story from the very beginning. There's no secrets or stigma. They are aware of that loving plan that was made for them. They get up-to-date medical information, and a sense of identity, and just more people to love them. So I want to talk a little bit about aspects of adoption that are a little bit more just, I guess, mechanical in nature about how things work, because I think people have a great deal of interest in these things. Now, this, I want to be very specific with you when I talk about these things, that this is state by state by state. And so the laws are all different. So what I'm going to tell you really refers to Iowa, but what I want you to know that is, in general, the same kinds of things apply in other states. It's just going to be the specific details about the length of time that there is a chance to change their mind, or what those procedures are going to be. But what I want to share with you is adoption. What if I change my mind? Well, here in Iowa, you absolutely can change your mind about adoption. So let's say, she's been planning with us for months. She has an adoptive family picked out. She goes to the hospital, has the baby, and changes her mind once that baby is born. That she doesn't feel that she can part with the child. She is under no obligation to carry through with her plan. So she can change her mind at that point. Now, there does become a time where, that ability to change her mind is no longer, okay? And so what happens is the child needs to be at least 72 hours old before we can take any action that is legally binding. So Lutheran Family Service would hire an attorney for the birth mother to represent her. That attorney, after 72 hours after the child has been born, would then work towards having her sign her release of custody and to petition the court. Once she signs that release of custody, she has 96 more hours that she can change her mind. If she does not revoke that release of custody during that 96 hours, it will become nearly impossible for her to convince a judge later on that it should be a revocable decision. So she would have to prove something like that the agency did something illegal, like pay her $60,000 for her child, or we held a gun to her head to have her sign it. Those things aren't going to happen. So generally speaking, this is called the revocation period. And so she has, if you add up the time there, you have the baby, you have 72 hours before you can sign, you have 96 more hours after you sign that you could change your mind. So that's going to be about a week, right, that she's got. And I think that is fairly commonplace through a variety of the states that where we serve and where we hope to serve in the future. And probably an appropriate thing, not something that I would necessarily be looking at wanting to change as far as our law structure. I say it's appropriate because I think they just need time in order to make sure that they're making the right decision for themselves before they sign something that's legally binding. Okay, so you might be thinking to yourselves, okay, so if this baby is born and then we aren't going to sign anything for 72 hours and we have 96 more hours, where does this baby go for a whole week? Because generally speaking, you don't get to stay in the hospital. And so what I would tell you is there is a provision for that where we can have, as an agency, temporary custody of a child that the birth mother gives to us. And we are able to place that child in what's called an at-risk placement. And that means all of our adoptive families know that nothing is binding, that though they're able to take that child home from the hospital, it very well may be that we have to come back and receive that child from them and return the child to that birth parent if she were to revoke. And so there will be a variety of agencies that will tell you that they use a bridge home or some sort of foster care in this interim time period so that we don't break the hearts of our adoptive families, needlessly. And I understand that point of view, but I will also give you a perspective from us at Lutheran Family Service, and that is that we will always look at the perspective of the child as being the most important service that we can provide. And that child is already going to have a break from their biological parent in adoption. Adoption does not happen without serious hurt. Okay. But what we don't want to do is to have that newborn then bonding with a bridge family or a foster family just to break that bond again, to then put the child into the home of the prospective adoptive parents. So what we will do is to have that prospective adoptive parents receive that child in an at-risk placement, because we believe the child is going to stay with them. And so rather than having two breaks, we want to have one. But also knowing that, we are certainly putting the hearts at risk of those pre-adoptive families that would really like to see that child stay forever. But it is a part of our planning. And I will tell you that the pre-adoptive families that we have prefer this over some of the agencies that I am aware of here in Iowa that have other policies, that they would rather take the risk and have that newborn with them immediately rather than having to wait. So we follow through with the necessary things that happen at this point. If the child stays with the family and we're proceeding forward, there is a termination of parental rights hearing that takes place. In Iowa, that's about 6 to 7 weeks after the child has been born. And then we also provide supervision of that placement of that child for 180 days, which is 6 months, where we go to the family home and we check on the child's well-being and on the family's well-being to make sure that the transition is going smoothly. And if there are any problems with communication with the expectant parent, our biological parent, and they need our assistance, that we're able to do those things. And so it really is a full service in regards to all of the things that we're going to provide for adoptive families, the supervision, the attorney for the termination of parental rights, and so forth. One of the things that we think is, I want to talk to you just a little bit about best practice. And one of the things that we see as best practice here at Lutheran Family Service is counseling and decision-making and adoption planning, and also grief and loss. And we do that through a partnership with some of our gals. There is more going on than just a pregnancy that was unexpected. There is mental health concerns and depression and anxiety. And we're able to sort of couple with our mental health counseling program in order to provide supports for that woman to sort of walk through all of what she might be going through. But having that counsel, making sure that we're giving her good decision-making opportunities as to whether or not she would like to parent or she would like to place. And then also staying with her after this is over, with the grief and loss that she might be feeling if she places a child for adoption. We also want to assist with birth father notification, which I'll talk a little bit, I'll unpack birth fathers here in just a few minutes a little bit more. We believe she needs a full explanation of the process and her rights. And that is why we hire an attorney that is working for her, though we pay the attorney. Making sure that she understands fully the legal ramifications of adoption and placing her child for adoption. So ongoing counseling and open arrangements are also things that we consider to be best practice. So birth fathers. I know it's no shock to you that in abortion, birth fathers have no choice, right? They don't have to be consulted, and or in abortion, they can also be very coercive and forcing a woman to have an abortion. But the birth father's role in adoption is that he must be consulted. And the only way around this and I've had to counsel women in the past who do not and will not want to name a birth father, though they know who it is. It could be because he's dangerous or whatever the circumstances are. The only way around that for her is a safe haven situation, which here in Iowa, we're not able to be safe haven providers. The law doesn't allow for that for pregnancy counseling centers, but there is, and the woman should always be consulted to know that they do exist, that there is a way forward with her if she feels like it is just too dangerous for her to name a birth father. But in adoption for a private agency like ours at Lutheran Family Service, we do and are required to do due diligence to know who a birth father may be or who the birth father possibilities are. And so there's a variety of things that I would tell you about this. So yes, she must tell who he is if she has that information. That's going to be a part of the legal process. What if he says no to adoption? Okay, there's a lot of if-thens and dependent situations on this, but depending on who he is, what his circumstances are, he may or may not be able to stand in the way of an adoption. Lutheran Family Service has no interest in taking children away from fathers who want to parent and are able to parent. And so it may be that our talk at that point, if we've got a birth father who is more than capable and does not want to have his child placed for adoption, we're going to have to talk about co-parenting, and we're going to have to help that woman pivot as to what her plans may be to either relinquish that child to the father and let him care for that child full time, or that she is going to co-parent with him, because there will in some cases not be an opportunity for us to place a child for adoption if there's going to be someone who is contesting. But there are other situations where birth fathers are in prison. They have no way to actually provide parenting. They've abandoned the woman. And in those cases, there is a path forward using the paternity registries that are in certain states. Also just talking and having conversations with the birth father, and seeing if we can't help him to understand what the best course of action may be. If she doesn't know his name, there is an option to publish in a newspaper to try and locate. And then there are paternity registries in the states that allow a person who believes they may have fathered a child to put their name on a registry. And in some states, that's all you have to do is check the registry. And if their name's not on it, you can terminate their rights. In other states, there's more to it. So sometimes we get questions, can adoptive parents pay expenses? And that answer is yes. Adoptive parents can pay expenses, and in a variety of states, the answer will be no. But here in Iowa and some surrounding states, the answer is yes. We can help pay for room and board. We can help provide transportation and food for the expectant mother. And when we do that, and if you're looking at adoption agencies, it's very important to know how do they handle this kind of thing. And so the handling of this needs, in an ethical way, needs to be that we pay third-party vendors, that we don't pay women directly, because we're not here buying a baby, but there are expenses that need to be paid. Like sometimes rent needs to be paid if a woman is not working, or we need to help, food and that kind of thing for her. Lutheran Family Service does provide transportation as well as counseling as well. And it's important to note here that medical expenses you'll see on there as well. Generally speaking, Medicaid is available to pregnant women. Definitely here in Iowa, 99% of the women we have are on Medicaid. And we're able to get the cost of the pregnancy, prenatal, as well as the coverage in the hospital taken care of through Medicaid. I've mentioned before also that we have mental health counselors. So we're able to sort of take care of any sort of ongoing mental health issues as well. I want to talk very briefly about the fact that we also have a Down syndrome adoption program, which is a philanthropic program here at Lutheran Family Service. We recognize, as do you, that there are many children who are diagnosed in utero with Down syndrome who are killed because of that diagnosis. And so we wanted to try and be a part of the potential solution, which would be to build up adoptive families who would be willing to receive a child who has Down syndrome. And then we will do so as free as possible from the agency. So all of the costs of the agency to do a home study, to do work with after the adoption, that post placement supervision, that we would do those things free of charge. We only ask for the pieces of the adoption that we have to pay outside third parties. So for instance, an attorney for the termination of parental rights, those would be the costs that we ask the family to be prepared to pay. So it's a very much reduced cost in order to be a part of the Down syndrome adoption program. We have our first little gal. Her name is Grace Cora. And Grace Cora was placed for adoption, I want to say 8 months ago. She's doing quite well with her family up in the northwest part of Iowa, and her finalization of adoption will be coming up in a month or so. And so the program has lots and lots of aspects. There's more things to unpack here, but we're getting short on time. But I want you to know that this exists. That we would love to hear from other families that want to participate in that program. I also want to tell you about a pregnancy care worker support program that we have also started. We've hired Wendy Solowitz to do and provide psychoeducation for the workers of crisis pregnancy care centers. And so these are PRCs with people who are on the front lines every day with women who are making decisions about abortion versus life. And it's a tough job, let us tell you. So we provide, as a group, psychoeducation to go into those pregnancy care centers to talk to those workers about the heaviness of the work that they're doing. And then we provide individual counseling for those of them who may need that ongoing. And we do that through telehealth in order to support those PRCs that are around Iowa. So LFS in green, this is where we are right now doing adoption work. Okay, so we have our license in South Dakota, and you will notice that on our website it is not rolled out yet, and that is because our worker is being trained. She is almost done. Kathy Vandebrock is working for us in South Dakota out of Sioux Falls, and that will be rolling out very, very soon on our website, that she will be able to provide service there. We provide service in Nebraska and Iowa, and then you'll also see North and Central Illinois we provide service. In yellow are my targets right now, things that we are thinking about. I've got an employee that is here in St. Ansgar in Iowa. I would like to get her into the Rochester area, but I've got to get licensed for child placing first. Minnesota North is, I think there's some interest there in the possibility of Lutheran Family Service. And so service in this part of Minnesota will be, is certainly a possibility soon. North Dakota as well would be an area that we would like to become licensed for child placing. And then this little spot down here in Illinois, I've got a child placing license, but I do not have a worker. And I am contemplating and thinking very hard about Carbondale, Illinois, and maybe some of you have kind of figured out the reasons why I might be thinking about that. And that is that they are bringing in a couple of different abortion providers into Carbondale very soon because of its location of being a spot where there are other states surrounding that are going to have abortion bans. And so there's the possibility of, if there was a worker there and we're able to do some work in that area to convince women that to save their babies, would we be able to do and provide some work in that area? It's complicated, I will tell you, simply because we know that there are going to be people that are traveling there from Missouri, from Tennessee, from Arkansas, from Kentucky. And that means having a child placing license in all of those areas, because in order for me to help them with adoption, I'm going to need to be able to legally do that in the state that they're coming from. So, but there'll be some discussions that are happening in that area, and then we will see where God leads us from there. These are the folks who are helping me. So I'm over here in the corner. This is Carrie Smith. She is on our team over in Bettendorf, and she crosses over and takes care of Illinois. This is Tiffany. She's in Urbandale, and she covers sort of the center part of Iowa. This is Sue. She's over in Council Bluffs, handles that area, and then handles Nebraska. This is Kathy, who is in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and she will be able to go into parts of Nebraska, parts of Iowa, and South Dakota. This is Emma Squire, and Emma is in St. Ansgar, Iowa, and would be the person that I mentioned might be able to go into the Rochester area of Minnesota. Down here in the corner, this is Wendy Solowitz. This is our person who is going into the crisis pregnancy centers and providing the psychoeducation with group therapy as well as individual therapy. And okay, I think with that, I would like to take questions if you still have the time. I see it's 10:37. Scott, I'm going to let you decide.
Yeah, I think we owe it to the folks here that if they have questions that they can ask. So maybe I'll be the translator if you can't hear them.
Okay, very good.
So any questions?
How can we help in her target states to move that along?
I would say a couple of things. One, if you would let your district offices know that you have interest and think that would be a good idea, let your district president and district mission office know that you think that would be a good idea. That would be very helpful. The other piece of that puzzle is when we're trying to find the right personnel. And so when we're doing this, we're coming in generally as a group. We're going to do adoption and pregnancy counseling work, but we're also going to do mental health counseling. And we like to have an office where we've got, sort of everybody. What we need are people who are trained and who are also mature Christians. And so looking for social workers who are mature Christians to be on my team, and then looking for independently licensed mental health workers and mature Christians to be on the team for mental health. And that's probably our biggest undertaking, is finding the right people to be in those seats when we move in.
Okay, Jean. Oh, yeah, sure. Yep. So Pam's question was, how can you get involved and how can you help spread into these other areas, help facilitate Kim's work?
Yeah.
Yes. We have another question, Alice.
What's the approximate cost for the parents to adopt, the adoptive parents to adopt a child?
Okay, so the question was, what's the approximate cost for a parent to adopt a child?
Yes. So I would say we're low to mid range at Lutheran Family Service, and it's going to be $22,000 to $25,000 for private adoption. Now, I know you probably had a big gulp when I said that. I also want you to be aware that people are not going to be precluded from being able to adopt if they can't afford that fee. And what I mean to say is that there are children who are available for adoption through foster care in those states. And being able to provide foster care and the possibility of adoption is, generally speaking, free. And may also be subsidized. So I don't want you to feel like it's impossible to adopt. But I will tell you that there are some concerns that you need to be aware of when it comes to foster care and adoption in terms of, for instance, let me talk about Illinois. Illinois, very, very pro-abortion state, pretty liberal in the thinking. And so if you're going to be a part of the foster care adoption process, you have to agree to transgender children and be gender affirming and all of those things. And that may be something that goes very much against your grain. And so that is not every state, but that is some states. But I want to make you aware that there are children who are in need, who are in foster care. And if their biggest need is to know Jesus and have Christian parents. So if there are ways that we can support that, I just want to make sure that I'm explaining that. We don't have foster care programs at Lutheran Family Service, specifically because if I did, I would have to bend to the rules of placing children in homosexual couples. And that is not something that we'll be doing at Lutheran Family Service.
Scott,
Okay,
can I
one
ask
more
a question?
question.
Oh, okay.
Sure, go ahead, Virginia.
Kim, I have a question. On August 3rd, we've been invited to participate in a meeting with our 2 district presidents for LCMS in Minnesota. We're going to be addressing our abortion laws here and what can be done. Maybe if you'd be available next week, and Scott and I are both going to go to that meeting, if we could maybe chat with you for a few moments, I think that might provide us an opportunity to at least bring it up to that group of people.
Absolutely. Virginia, just get in touch with me. It looks to me like I have a 9 to 11 meeting on August 3rd, and after that I would be open.
Okay, no, it would be before that, next week, so that we can have some knowledge of what we can talk about before we go to our meeting.
Absolutely. You
Okay.
just give me a call. I'm going to put my phone number in the chat here.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, Roni.
Kim, great presentation. Thank you so much. Question, I love what you're doing with Trisomy 21 with the Down syndrome. Do you have plans to expand to other prenatally diagnosed issues, things like cystic fibrosis, ADHD, some of that can be now diagnosed prenatally? Do you have plans to expand to some of these other issues as well?
I don't have specific plans to tell you about, but I would absolutely not. I'm not going to say it's not in the arena. Right now, the focus has been growth on other states that we can move into and become licensed to do child placing. However, I think that you're probably very right in that there are other diagnoses that if we expand that may very well be something that is important to do, because those children are also being targeted for abortion. There's no doubt.
Okay, any last questions? We'll let Kim go otherwise.
Okay. Hey,
Seeing none.
thank you so much. And again, I am terribly sorry I wasn't there in person. But you all understand why. I hope you have a great rest of your retreat, and I thank you for including me.